Nothing we say here is investment advice, legal advice, life advice, or representative of the views of the organization we are part of or affiliated with. See chainabstracted.com for more.
Hey everybody, this is Chain Abstracted. It's actually episode 12. So we have Yair with us from Lava, which we're quite excited. I know near folks have been kind of working closely with Lava, and we're seeing a lot more chains coming in and working with them as well. So happy to have you here, and love to hear a background, who you are, and then we can deep dive into Lava later.
Yeah, for sure. So super excited to be here. Always good to chat with the near ecosystem. We're a big believer in chain abstraction. And actually, I think one of the first video when I jumped into the industry was 3 years ago, and I was seeing Ilya on a podcast. It was kind of the whiteboard that he's doing, but in a real class, I could say. But just a couple of words about my background. I studied computer engineering. Born and raised in Israel. I was in a special program in the army, and I started my first startup when I was 21. So entrepreneurship always attracted me. I like to bring new abilities and develop scalable products. And my co-founder was also in one of the top intelligence unit, and we jumped into Web3 3 years ago. Actually, it was the NFT summer, and you see, back at the time, we thought that Ethereum was kind of the only mainnet, right? So there were a lot of kind of different infrastructure, but they were a bit unreliable. So we realized from the moment we arrived that to be a single provider, that lowering the barrier for dApps, for user to communicate with the chain itself, it's a must, right? So every ecosystem, every chain that's coming up needs to have this basic layer of accessing, whether it's RPC, indexing, oracles. And we set up the focus to make sure that we, first of all, starting with the first layer, right? It's RPC. And RPC is the most basic communication protocol, and it has to be faster and much more decentralized there. And, while we started back then, we thought, why today the infra is kind of shit, right? You think about, you access the wallet, you don't see the account balance, you cannot make a transaction, you get a error, and this is not the good fundamentals for a scalable and to bring the billion dApps and user to come to the space. And while we started 2 years ago, we think that the space has grown much, so we discover even a much bigger problem. If we started from a decentralized RPC, we've seen that every chain is actually struggling with the same thing, right? In a multi-chain world, the first thing that the chain has to do is to provide this access layer to bring dApps, communicate, read, write transactions. But what about not only RPC, how about indexing, subgraph, oracles? And this is when the Lava vision evolved to be an actually data access layer that connects any user, any dApp, to any blockchains out there.
Awesome. So I guess the problem you saw, which is you started with RPC and then growing into data layer, was that motivated by personal experience, or is it more like, hey, you just started talking to folks and foundations, be like, because one of the things that we saw when I was working at your foundation is like having the RPC keep on running is pretty tough, right? You kind of need to do it in a very centralized way. A lot of foundations go in a way of like, hey, let's just find one or two providers that, provide that. So how did that evolve? Like, how did the idea came out to be?
So yeah, definitely. I think the first steps and what attracted me to crypto was my co-founder who started building bots, did some MEV, and we've seen that the basic layer of interacting with the blockchain is not straightforward, right? If you only have Ethereum, so you need to run an Ethereum node, but then you have Near to run a Near node and any other chain that up and coming, it doesn't make sense for the end user, for the dApp to run the nodes there, right? So we thought about how Lava can help major chains like Ethereum, Near to aggregate, optimize, scale their existing RPC provider. And it's kind of abstracting away the complexity of using different providers. Instead of the dApp coming to a new chain and looking for what are the providers that give access to this chain. We thought about a one-stop shop in a much more less fragmented way, and to really bring the access to solve this problem. We see that chains kind of struggling to solve this problem, and every chain goes through the same line of thought, right? And the process. Starting a new chain, maybe you're not a reputable chain, so then you need to approach the providers, the RPC providers, and have a contract with them. You're not sure about the quality of data that they're serving, and so forth. So you're ending up wasting your resources, taking the chain team to actually implement their own load balancer, backup, disaster recovery, and so forth. But it's end up in not utilizing the resources, all the funds for bringing more dApps and build the real technology, like, for example, you building a Nuffle, right? So I think what the chains get with Lava, it's a blockchain that helps them bootstrap and optimize any decentralized RPC. And this was the first steps. We thought about Uber for nodes. So every node runner can join this marketplace and receive rewards based on the quality of service.
Okay. Yeah, that mental model makes sense to me. Just before we go deep dive into like the mechanics of the network, and obviously I'll link that to chain abstraction as usual. What is an RPC, right? Like I think users, we know what as an RPC is. I mean, I'm technical, you're technical.
Yeah. It's like request and response, right? So if you ask a provider to provide you data, first of all, sometimes you're ending up not getting the data, right? I guess it happened to you sometimes when you're opening the wallet and you don't see the account balance, right? You cannot refresh, you cannot fetch or send transactions. So this is why, that's one of the problems that I mentioned, like single point of failure. Provider is he has downtime. And when the provider has downtime, you cannot get access with your wallet to the blockchain itself. It results in other problems as well. We spoke briefly about privacy, censorship resistant, one of the core values of blockchains. And obviously, we spoke about if the provider is providing you the data. But what about is he providing you not the latest block? What if he provides you a malicious data? And we see some DNS hijacking and attacks like that. So, every time you think about RPC, you think about what's my ETH balance, right? And then this is the request, right? And the response from a node runner, it's you have one ETH as the latest block, but you want to make sure that this is actually correct, and you don't want to implement other nodes runner and to benchmark between them. So this problem of data reliability, data accuracy is something that was not straightforward.
Yeah, so it's basically like whenever you use anything on crypto, right? So like a front end, which is the website you see, needs to talk to the blockchain. So anything that goes through, anything that you want to grab and do something, it needs to go through an RPC, correct? So like any interaction. So the most important thing in crypto is for user experience is actually have a very reliable RPC that you can actually provide. Is that like what I'm getting? And then we can see sort of like how Lava solves that, right? Which is obviously talked about a little bit, Lava Network being a marketplace, right, for RPC, where you have people come to Lava, provide the supply side, which is, I would say, like the RPCs themselves, and the demand side, which is kind of people coming in and pinging that network.
Definitely. So just to summarize, we can think about RPC is the way of how wallets, dApps connect to the blockchains and allowing users and also developers to do the basic things, right? It involved making the request and getting the response for someone else that's running those RPC nodes. and getting access to the blockchain that you're trying to connect to, right? So if you think about RPC, this is essentially the core fundamental for any blockchain interaction. You want to read transaction, you want to see the account balance, you want to swap, you want to trade, you want to mint an NFT, you want to sell a shit coin, like whatever, right? So this is what it's important for me as a takeaway from here.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess Lava is a marketplace. How does the technical infrastructure work? Is that like an L1? Is that an L2? Is that a dApp? I know the answer to that, but I just want you to explain like what's your sort of take and how you kind of started building the infrastructure. And then the number two is you said, well, we want to make sure that nodes provide the right service. And how do you do that? With what mechanics that you kind of use for that?
Super. So if we think about it simple, right? So we think about that Lava lets any user and developer to connect to all other blockchain the same way that Celestia is using provide the DA layer for all other blockchains. So Lava provides the data access, and you use the right term. You said marketplace. So what does it mean, right? If you are a Lava, if you want to be a Lava provider, you need to have what we call a proof of quality or accountability. So any RPC provider that has access to a specific chain basically is able to, he needs to stake Lava to make sure this is the way to enter the marketplace, right? Once you stake Lava, you can serve RPC request. And the way you receive the request is based on two parameters. One of them is the quality of service, whatever you did in the previous transaction and scoring mechanism in order to give you a score yourself. And the second thing is based on the stake. So based on these two things, you receive, as a provider, you receive service and you are able to serve. You also rewarded for this at the end of the month based on the quality of service. The staking mechanism is holding them accountable in a way that if somehow you didn't send the latest block, or even you presented malicious data, you as a node runner is able to can be prone to be jailed or even slashed. And this is the way we kind of balancing the economic demand here with creating the blockchain. The Lava blockchain is an app chain. It's based on Cosmos SDK, Tendermint. We use this super scalable tech stack to in order to make sure that we bring and we deliver fast, and actually it is. Since the testnet, it's already serving transactions, and it's more than 1.5 years almost. So you think about Lava as a marketplace, as a permissionless Amazon, is the same way that Amazon connects consumer to merchants to buy any item. Lava connects users or dApps to any node providers to provide any type of data. It started with RPC, we spoke about indexing, subgraph, oracles, and everything there.
I see. Makes sense. Okay, so like on Ethereum, for example, if you double sign as a validator, you get slashed, right? Or you have other conditions to kind of not act in the way that you should not act. So on Lava, you kind of have a similar condition where if the data is not quality, if you're not responding to the service like that people are requesting, you kind of like have kind of like a ranking in system. It's like a gamified version of for any provider really, like data, subgraph, RPC. Obviously, you guys started with RPC, but going to do more stuff. So it becomes like it's quite similar mechanisms, but you guys are using the same mechanism for quality of service that everybody requires. That's what I understand.
So Lava is built around, this is the bread and butter of Lava is the quality of service, right? I'm inviting everyone who's listening to dive even deeper. There are amazing blogs talking about different mechanism in Lava, conflict detection, conflict resolution, how the validators are participating to secure the chain, and so forth. It's super fascinating. We use game theory to module kind of the benchmarking of the data, sampling the providers when they are not aware of that, in order to make sure that the data is accurate. And it's I was lucky to work with kind of the top minds in the space.
Awesome, man. That's great. I mean, it's interesting because it's like, it's almost like the realization of the app chain thesis. I mean, app chain L2 thesis in a sense where people are building app chains. I mean, there's like a lot of L2s that don't know what they are doing, right? Like they're just launching L2s just for the sake of L2. But on the Lava case is quite unique in the sense that you actually are using the blockchain for one thing and one thing only, which is quality of service. Which is kind of excites me in a sense that like, there's obviously there'll be dozens of chains. We all know some chains are like kind of like I don't even know what this is, right? Like I just launch a chain, obviously, but some of them, like you guys, like hey, or DYDX, or somebody else that specifically does this thing. Or I mean, Celestia is a good example. Avail is a good example, right? Like does this thing and does this thing only. Quite excited about that. How do you think about like now going back to sort of chain abstraction, right? Like how do you think about this? What's your internal thesis? Because your chain abstraction is in a sense that you're using the chain to build a marketplace. But how do you think this is going to evolve, and how does like Lava participate in this sort of efforts, you think?
Exactly. So just to take one step maybe back is that we spoke a bit about the technology and how it works. So it's important to emphasize that Lava is not a single point of failure. So every dApp straight from the browser is connected to dozens of providers. So it makes it like all the scoring mechanism, the subscription, the reward, everything is on chain. So everything is available and transparent for the users. But this is how we started building with simplifying the model. But what happened last October is that many chains started to approach us and say, okay, so you're actually doing decentralized RPC, but there is a more interesting place when you can help us a lot. And this is the public RPC that every chain has. And this is the moment when Lava launched pools, right? Pools are basically incentive pools that every chain deploying its own token, inviting providers to join, so they're getting at the end of every month the rewards based on the quality of service. So imagine that in the near future, as you said, dozens of new chains are up and coming. Think about the process of they going to each and every provider, receiving quotes, have lock-in contracts. Why, right? In few minutes, you can spin up its own pool, deposit tokens, and invite providers. That's exactly what Evmos did back then in October. So this is the primary way that Lava is different from any other RPC provider, and this is when the vision expanded to be a unique access layer to the entire blockchain. So in the last 4 years, you see crazy traction coming, especially from the pools. On the technical side, we had a way to scale the servers. Community side, you see the foundation did a great job of bringing more and more node runners. But at the end of the day, you see that not only in Evmos, in Axelar, and now in Near, we have more and more demand to this kind of pools. So yeah, that's what I'm super excited in today.
Awesome. And so Lava Pools, what else is like in your roadmap? Lava Pools launch, you said last year, right? You said October for at most, yeah, at most, yeah. So what else is on the roadmap that people should get excited about and learn more
Yeah.
about you guys?
So we started with the pools themselves, but I think one of the problems with deploying the first product is that you are super excited about that. You as an entrepreneur also see that you're excited, you want it to go everywhere, but sometimes the risk is that you're gonna spread too thin. So that's what we decided to implement the first pools on different kind of categories and domain. That's why I chose Axelar, Evmos, and Near. Everyone has its own benefits and different by the use cases. The next thing, obviously, we're talking about is now after mainnet launch, right? I think it was important for the Lava Foundation to present the tokenomics and talk about the different actors serving and bringing value to the chain itself. So, just a recap, Lava pools means that RPC node operator can join Lava and serve RPC and earn tokens. But every token holder obviously can delegate to a validator and can restake to additional node provider. So I know the concept of restaking is familiar for other DA, eigenlayer and stuff, but restakes actually gives normal token holder the opportunity to impact the performance of all the network. Because you remember that every provider receiving service based on the quality of service and their stake. So first the delegator can stake it to a validator, but then they can help an RPC provider to get more service. And this is how it's kind of helps the community to select and boost the best RPC provider and influence the overall performance of the network. I'm really excited about this feature, and to see we just launched the chain, so happy to see what the future holds.
So there's lava, you stake lava and you get restake lava, which then you can use to give it to that gives you voting power, or give it to like the RPC providers that do well. Is
In
it kind of
every Yes, in every chain, the lava is used as a utility. It can help you to participate in the DAO, governance, staking, delegation, rewards. But the unique part here is how do the community help influence on the best node runners out there? If you see a very good node runner, it's not about the marketing, it's about the performance. All the information is in on chain. So you see the reputable node runner, and you can earn more rewards by restaking to this, you as a token holder, by restaking to a specific node runner.
I see. Okay, so it's kind of a similar concept as Eigenlayer, but different use case. I mean, because Eigenlayer is like more like, hey, I'm going to restake this to anybody, right, who's going to do something for me, and they can use as ETH. Lava is more like, hey, I'm going to restake to a node runner that that does something. Okay, interesting. I did not know that. I mean, it's quite unique because restaking is gonna, yeah, restaking is becoming like a thing everywhere. Like, I mean, it started in Ethereum, obviously. I actually started in Cosmos and other ecosystems first, went to Ethereum later, and then now it's coming back everywhere, right? It's cool. So yeah, what's your
It's also important to keep it simple, right? Because there are so many things up and coming, but you want to keep it simple, especially polish the narrative and make sure that it goes clear to the community and to everyone else that you want to join to the community.
Yeah. So yeah, what's your chain abstraction thesis internally then? Like, how do you see this evolve? Like, and then I'll ask like after that, like, what's your advice for founders coming in today? And like now that there's this bunch of chains, like, what should founders look into? I know you've looked into obviously RPC, which is every chain needs, but is there something that you're seeing that founders should pay more attention to in your head?
Yeah, I think, when I started crypto, everyone talk about consolidation of the L1s. There are not going to be a lot of L1s. L2s was just at the beginning. Today, you know that this is the other way around. You have so many different doctrines, from chain abstraction to share security to modularity and so forth. And if you think about the different building blocks, you think about the execution layer, the settlement layer, the data availability and consensus layer, and it doesn't matter which doctrine you choose. At the end of the day, we realize that there is a fourth layer. It's something, it tweeted recently, the fourth forgotten layer. And this is access. Because how will chains make sure that dApps building on that when they cannot provide this basic service? Access. How do chain make sure that the wallets, the end users that, using providers, will make sure that they can do transaction, they buy an NFT and all of that. So I think the fourth layer is something that super excites me, and in general, we thought about Lava as aggregating all of that multi-chain infrastructure away. I deeply believe in the chain abstraction. It's kind of the basic today, you know, the near data availability layer. It's something that I see more and more, especially with your use case as a fast finality layer. If you can bring this ability of transaction settlement between different chains, I think it can bring very interesting, use cases. Think about DeFi, right? Protocol can utilize these fast finality layers and interact with, liquidity pools across various chains. So at the end of the day, the end user get better rates and more option. You think about, a use case I thought recently. It's something about interoperable NFTs, right? So optimizing all the interest rate and at the end of the day, liquidities. So NFTs can be transferred, across different blockchains. And if one NFT is created on Ethereum, easily you can, use it in games or sell it on marketplaces, but on another chains. So I think it's going to be super exciting next couple of months and obviously years, with the chain abstraction that unlocking this potential to eliminate the complexity of interacting with multiple blockchain. Yeah.
How do you think about the services in a chain abstracted world? Like, is it, how do we, like, I guess Love is working on that already. But do you have any thoughts, like, hey, like services are going to improve, services are going to degrade? Like, how do you think about it? Because
I always,
yeah.
since my first startup, I always a big advocate of keep it simple, right? If you, I think that the non-consolidation, the world that we're going to live in of multiple chains, it represents kind of humanity in general, right? Everyone wants to express itself. Everyone wants its own community, its own token. And you need to make sure that the building blocks are super scalable, resilient, and reliable. If you were to think that after we finishing the call and you're surfing the web, you type www dot, doesn't matter what, do you know what is the HTTP version that you use? Do you know where the website is stored? Is it AWS, GCP? You have no idea, right? And this kind of abstraction made the internet, the Web 2.0, to explode. So if we want to think about services in Web3, I think we need to keep it simple and make sure that when somebody is starting anything, a dApp, a consumer chain, anything, it has to be kept simple, that the infrastructure is not a burden. The infrastructure is seamlessly being integrated. And this is part of my vision.
That makes sense. Keep it simple. Okay. And that's the pretty much the the advice to every entrepreneur coming into crypto is like, don't try to do something more complex, but you can do something more complex at the back end, but just keep it simple and the front end, right? Because that makes it, yeah. What does excite you guys most then? Like obviously mainnet is coming, but what are the next steps? Like what excites you most after the mainnet? And yeah, that's probably the main one I'm kind of curious about as an entrepreneur. That what's the bigger thing that is you guys are working on after the mainnet launch?
So I think what is super interesting is that there are stages in crypto, right? There is the draw board stages when you are drafting your architecture, when you do a couple of experiments and decided what tech stack to use. There is the second stage, which you finally launching the testnet, and there is the big stage when you do the mainnet, right? So actually, I think what was interesting with Lava is the demand push Lava testnet to be a production ready system, right? Mm-hmm. So served billions of requests, reached 2 billion daily requests. became a RPC provider of choice in these three amazing ecosystems. And and more ecosystem already wanted to sign. You see Starknet, Filecoin, the Cosmos Hub, Stargaze, Union, and so forth. And what excites me now is to see the how the team is kind of sending its open source protocol that it worked so hard in the last 2 years, and and see how the adoption really gets there, right? I feel like we're in this verge of product market fit, a very exciting moment for every entrepreneur to be. The adoption is high, the demand is high. Now execution. So I think I'm really looking the next few months to see all these new partnership I just mentioned that are going to deploy those pools. This is something that going to bring me a lot of joy and proud of the team, of course.
So what does product market fit mean for you guys then? Is it like full on? So you said that there's already demand, right? Like, do you think that's product market fit already, or like what is the case that I'm like, oh, like look, I already have product market fit. I can sleep well now, right? But is there a limit to that, right? Is there always like you delay the product market fit because you want to achieve more, more growth? I mean, this is a personal question, but how does
Yeah,
that work?
fun thing to say is like you can never sleep well as an entrepreneur, right? But
Yeah.
I'm kind of sleeping not bad. I guess
That's Lisbon helping you, man. That's fine.
it's something maybe unrelated to lava, but in general, I'm pushing entrepreneurs is to answer the question of what makes their heart sing. And if they're waking up in the morning with this passion in them, when they're not snoozing the alarm, and they are ready for a new day to conquer the world or bring another step ahead for the product, I think they are in a good place. So in general, like I I think that the product market fit is where you see first of all income, right? You see like even in an early stage, you see a lot of usage. I think there are very interesting KPIs inside each and every ecosystem, how you reach the product market fit in each ecosystem, and the team is working on that nonstop. I think one interesting stuff is that the protocol itself, the foundation was able to distribute hundred thousands of dollars since the beginning of the year, right? It's real money that came back for provider that was working really hard on being the best. And you kind of think about Lava as a distribution channel for all of these providers. For example, you are really known as in NIR, right? And you have great technical skills in NIR. You know how to run archive node and stuff like that. But what do you have with marketing that, right? You can utilize your own infrastructure in order to provide service and monetize it. So if you think about the super user in each ecosystem, they can come to Lava, spin what we call a spec, that this is the supporting version for each and every ecosystem. And everyone can take the spec and implement their pools, provide more nodes, and provide service. So at the end of the day, the one who spin up the spec gonna get rewards for the entire lifetime of the spec. It's another super cool thing that we call champions in Lava. So yeah, that's what excites me, and that's where I see the product market fit. Making sure that dozens of chain will use Lava in the next 1 year. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys will get there. One of the problems is like, as you said, the RPC providers. I've seen it with a lot of things. Like I was building on Near and saw RPCs like just die, and there's no other alternative to switch to. So I think there's a good
I don't know if
TMF
you
there, and with
mentioned
any.
it here because we're not chilling, right? But I remember when Nate from Inbase came to me and Lava saved the day. I was like, oh my God, thank you so much for
Yeah,
saying that. It's
yeah,
amazing. It's amazing because we're here to really make this change, but in a new way that also use the keep it simple principles.
Yeah, it's also just aggregating, right? I'm aggregating the people, and you become like a ledger of like reliability in a sense that people didn't have before, which is quite cool. I mean, it's abstracting not only chains but also services, and then you use. I mean, this worked in Web 2, right? I mean, you have a bunch of API aggregators and others, and kind of that way. And you're doing is essentially the same thing, but for crypto, and becomes a marketplace. And it's interesting. It's more fun because you actually have incentives, right? Incentives to kind of get slashed or getting rewards, which is not really built into to normal internet. So it's pretty cool. And what's the where should people go to learn about you guys? Like, what's the best way to kind of get engaged with the community? What could people do to be part of Lava?
Definitely, I think we our community is super flourishing, especially in the last few months. Go to Discord, Twitter, read the blogs and the website. The usual places and socials that every protocol has. But I think the team put an immense effort in making it very coherent, make it easier. I hear providers can just join in a few minutes, run nodes, and join each and every pools. The tooling is great. So even if you are non-technical users, I don't know if you've seen the Magma point system. What the foundation presented in February, and since then more than 4 million wallets changed the endpoint, use Lava, and started receiving points. So I think there is a place for this revolution for techie people, for non-techie. Everyone is welcomed, and we're receiving great feedback so far for the community.
Maybe for entrepreneurs, this is a question that I just said when you said points. What was the decision, sort of, what was your sort of mental model there when you were actually designing the points, right? I mean, what was if you think about it, like there's been discussion around, obviously, like, should we do it or should we not do it? Is it overdone? Like, what's been the feedback from the community for you guys? I mean, if somebody else is listening on the near community side, I know there's a bunch of folks that are thinking about doing the same thing. Like, how would you guide people in that journey
You mean in the journey?
of like designing the incentives and
Oh,
points,
yeah. I
using, yeah,
personally,
like.
yeah, I personally was not involved. It's something that the foundation was taking, more steps in. I was, my core principles was like, how do you looked at other point systems, and you want to make sure that it's actually beneficial and it's easy and it makes sense, right? Because what people want at the end of the day to connect with their narrative, to believe in the values that you bring and believe in the vision that you share. So if you are able to make sure the engagement with them is related to your product, I think it's a win-win. This is how we said from the beginning. You believe in the values that you should not trust a single provider. So no problem. You have a decentralized RPC layer. If you change your wallet to use the endpoint, something that takes a few minutes, and it's done, right? It's from that moment, that you can really have privacy, uptime, availability, all the good stuff that the Lava protocol brings. My core feedback and recommendation, just stay connected to the product that you actually develop.
Okay, awesome. Cool, but this was very fun. So, like, what are the takeaways, I guess? What should people learn? Like, if they listen to this and they kind of came in the last minute and they want to learn more about you, yourself, Lava, or any of your vision about chain abstraction, like how would you express that?
So if you just tuned in, you can reward and go back to the
Run an LLM and then right.
that's a special technology thing, has no DA layer or stuff like that. But I think there's a lot of material outside there. I think our vision at the beginning was to disrupt the industry in its core fundamental way, in a place that is neglected today. And we found out this very special access layer that everyone at the end of the day needs. Not even they know that, but they need that. So I think like my key takeaway is that you should definitely stay bullish on crypto. I'm super excited to see like what kind of the chain abstraction narrative is coming and new ways to launching new protocols. And if at the end of the day you can abstract away multi-chain RPC, it's going to bring much more dApps end user to adopt crypto. So mainnet live, and I think that's the time to participate and help Lava grow.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Yair, for your time. It's been nice because you started with like kind of a little bit about Lava, how it started, what is Lava, the marketplace, and then the blockchain itself, how does it work, the older narrative, and then kind of a bit more about how chain abstraction helps you guys and also probably everyone else, right, going forward to build, cheaper and faster apps. So thanks for your time. This has been great.
Altan, thank you for the question. I wish you also
Likewise.
success in your journey and looking forward to doing more together.
Awesome.